This is perhaps the most mature film Disney has ever made. Judy is a bunny living in a world full of predators. They say these predators are no longer dangerous, and prey should trust them. Thousands of years ago, prey lived in fear of predators because they were wild and fierce. However, predators have evolved and learned to control their biological instincts. Now, predators and prey live in harmony, and everyone has the opportunity to be whatever they want. A sheep can be an astronaut, a cheetah can be a lawyer, and Judy dreams of becoming a police officer. When her parents hear her dream, they panic. There's never been a bunny cop before. This job is reserved for predators. They try to convince her to give up and stay on the family carrot farm. But Judy longs to move to Zootopia, the big city where everyone can be anything, where there are no limits. Judy notices that Gideon, the school bully, has stolen tickets from her classmates. He's a fox who takes advantage of the sheep and bunny's weakness. Despite her small size, Judy stands up to him and fights to get the tickets back. She succeeds, but ends up with scratches from the fox. Years pass, and Judy enrolls in the police academy. Even though everyone, including her instructors, says she's bound to fail, she never gives up. She's not like the other cadets. Most of them are predators, naturally stronger than her, putting her at a big disadvantage. Still, with determination and effort, she ends up outperforming even the fiercest trainees and becomes the first bunny police officer. The mayor of Zootopia, a lion named Leodore Lionheart, awards her a medal for her dedication and assigns her to work in the heart of the city. The assistant mayor, Bellwether, a sheep, is extremely proud of Judy's achievement. She tells her, "It's a big day for us little guys," and wishes her luck on her journey. Judy is thrilled. This is everything she ever dreamed of. But her parents are still terrified. They remind her that the city is full of predators, wolves, bears, lions, but worst of all, foxes, because being sneaky and opportunistic is just part of their biology. They give her a fox repellent to protect herself. At first glance, this film doesn't seem particularly deep, but it actually is. Its central theme seems to be the prejudices and stereotypes that exist in diverse societies, especially in those that pride themselves on being inclusive. Even in societies that claim to value diversity, the majority often holds negative biases toward minority groups, and vice versa. We're told that predators and prey now coexist in total harmony, but we still see signs of division. For instance, Gideon the fox labels prey as weak, while Judy's parents are still fearful of predators. It becomes clear that these groups aren't as inclusive as they think. However, in Zootopia, this division isn't embedded in external systems or laws. It's internal. There are no explicit discriminatory policies. Instead, individuals themselves maintain these barriers through biases, stereotypes, beliefs, and ingrained fears. This is what's known as unconscious bias. We don't even realize we have them, yet these prejudices influence our choices and the way we judge those around us. For example, Judy's parents might not see themselves as discriminatory. They believe they're just protecting their daughter from what they consider real dangers. Similarly, Gideon may not think he's prejudiced, only that prey are genuinely weak. But these are still generalizations about entire groups of individuals who are far more diverse than any stereotype allows. So, in the real world, who do the predators and prey represent? In Zootopia, predators make up 10% of the population and prey 90%. Considering this is an American film, we could say that predators symbolize minority groups in the US, such as African Americans, Muslims, Latinos, Jews, Romani people, etc. The biases shown toward predators in the film reflect real-world prejudices these groups often face. For instance, African Americans are often unfairly labeled as aggressive, Latinos as criminals, Muslims as misogynistic or dangerous, Jews as greedy, and Romani as dishonest. On the other hand, prey might represent the white population, who also face their own set of stereotypes and expectations. Judy can't believe her parents are so biased. She doesn't judge others based on species or stereotypes. She takes the fox repellent to keep them happy, but doesn't plan on using it. She boards the train and heads to Zootopia, mesmerized by the city. To her, it represents a land of opportunity, where all kinds of animals live together in harmony and can be whoever they want to be, without judgment or limits. Predators and prey are friends. Judy is convinced she's open-minded and inclusive and that she'll fit right in. On her first day as an officer, she wakes up early and gets ready. She looks at the fox repellent her parents gave her and decides to leave it behind. She's better than that, but something makes her go back and take it, just in case. At the police station, all the predators look at her dismissively. They don't understand why someone like Judy would be doing the same job as them. Chief Bogo is the worst of all. He explains that 14 mammals are currently missing, all of them predators, from a polar bear and a wolf to a small otter. He assigns the other officers to specific zones to keep investigating. But Judy gets a very special assignment: parking duty. She tries to get Bogo to change his mind, but he's firm. He doesn't believe she can handle anything beyond meter mating. The film also seems to criticize gender bias in the workplace. Judy appears to represent women trying to enter male-dominated fields. These women are often underestimated and discriminated against due to assumptions about their physical or intellectual capacity. Judy is small and is perceived as cute. Even one of her coworkers makes a comment about how adorable she is. While that comment might seem harmless or even flattering, it's actually inappropriate and minimizing in a professional setting. By focusing on her looks, he's undermining her seriousness and capability, reducing her to her appearance. Similarly, Bogo assigns her a role often considered more appropriate for women, administrative or secondary tasks, while the more prestigious or challenging roles, especially those requiring fieldwork, go to the men. Bogo underestimates Judy. Maybe he means well, but his unconscious biases are limiting her potential. Still, Judy is optimistic and determined. She decides that if this is her job, she'll do it perfectly. After finishing her tickets, she notices a fox walking down the street and gets suspicious. He's not doing anything wrong, but Judy has a gut feeling. She watches him enter an ice cream shop and decides to follow him inside. He's standing next to his son trying to buy him an ice cream, but the elephant clerk is refusing to sell it to him. Judy watches, expecting the fox to turn aggressive, and starts to reach for her fox repellent. But then she sees the fox's son and softens. She's outraged by the way the elephant is treating them and decides to step in. She orders the clerk to sell him the popsicle, or she'll issue a citation. She even offers to pay for it herself. The fox is extremely grateful, but Judy brushes it off, saying, "It's nothing. I just can't stand people with such narrow-minded, outdated views about foxes. You're a great dad, and a very well-spoken fox." He thanks her and replies, "What a compliment. It's rare to find someone who's not condescending." He introduces himself as Nick, then says goodbye and leaves. This scene is a perfect example of our unconscious biases. Judy truly believes she's an inclusive person. She even scolds her parents for being prejudiced against foxes. But that same morning, she decided to take the fox repellent with her. And when she first saw Nick, she immediately felt suspicious, solely because he was a fox. Though she doesn't express any open prejudice and considers herself very tolerant, deep down she still holds biases. It's only when she witnesses the elephant's discrimination so blatantly that she gets angry and sees it as cruel and unfair. Judy shows a clear inconsistency. She tolerates prejudice as long as it's not overt. She's quick to condemn the biases of others, but fails to recognize her own. Even when she praises Nick for being so articulate, it's a backhanded compliment. What she's really implying is that he's surprisingly smart for a fox. So while it might sound like praise, she's actually reinforcing a negative stereotype. That's why Nick sarcastically says it's nice to finally meet someone who isn't condescending. And because Judy believes she's not prejudiced, she smiles, thinking it was a sincere compliment. Later, while Judy's back on parking duty, she spots Nick melting the popsicle she paid for. He uses the juice to create multiple mini ice pops and starts selling them in the street. He scammed her. And his young son? He's actually an adult in disguise. Furious, Judy confronts Nick. She stood up for him, and he just lied to her. She calls him a sly fox. Nick mocks her and her job as a meter maid. Judy snaps, telling him she's better than someone who never tried to be anything more than a cheap con artist. But Nick calmly responds that he bets she dreamed of being a cop and thought Zootopia would be a perfect place where anyone could be whatever they wanted. Then he hits her with reality. That place doesn't exist. In this city, you can only be what you already are. There are no second chances. He adds, "I'll always be a sly fox, and you'll always be a dumb bunny." Judy gets offended and insists she's not a dumb bunny. But even though she's overcome the stereotype assigned to her, she still hasn't realized that the stereotypes imposed on others are also false. She thinks she's not biased because she's risen above her own labels, but she hasn't recognized that others are victims of the same thing, just in different ways. Nick represents the opposite of Judy. They've both faced prejudice all their lives. But while Judy has fought back and tried to prove she's more than the labels placed on her, Nick has done the opposite. He's accepted the identity others imposed on him. They represent two different responses to stereotypes. Something else worth noting. Even though Zootopia claims to be an inclusive city where everyone can be anything, the reality is far from it. And as mentioned before, this isn't because of explicit discriminatory laws or policies. It's because of the implicit biases everyone carries, both toward others and toward themselves. Zootopia isn't the utopia it claims to be. The next day, Judy is still issuing parking tickets when a thief robs a store and runs off with stolen goods. She sees it as the perfect opportunity to put her police skills to use. She chases him across the city, causing quite a bit of destruction in the process. At one point, a huge structure starts to fall, nearly crushing a tiny mouse who's just walked out of a beauty salon. Judy rushes over and saves her just in time. She continues the chase and eventually catches the thief, but instead of praise, she gets scolded. Chief Bogo reprimands her for abandoning her post and endangering citizens. All for what? To stop someone from stealing 24 onions. Judy corrects him. They're not onions. They're a different kind her family grows on their farm. Bogo couldn't care less. Just then, Mrs. Otterton bursts into the office. She begs Bogo to take her case. Her husband, Emmett, has been missing for 10 days, but Bogo insists there's nothing more they can do. Every officer is already working around the clock. Judy steps in and volunteers to take the case. Mrs. Otterton is overjoyed, but Bogo is furious. He's about to fire Judy when Assistant Mayor Bellwether walks in and celebrates the news that Judy has taken on the missing mammal case. She messages the mayor to share the good news about the little bunny doing a big job. Bogo has no choice but to let Judy investigate, but with one condition: she has 48 hours to find Emmett, or she must resign. Everything Judy has dreamed of is now on the line. Still, she accepts the challenge. She starts reviewing the case file and spots Nick in the corner of one of the surveillance photos. She approaches him to ask what he knows, but Nick refuses to help. He says he has to work. He makes $200 a day, and that doesn't come easy. But Judy came prepared. She tells him that if he doesn't cooperate, she'll report him for tax evasion since he hasn't declared any of his income. Plus, she has an audio recording of him admitting it. She offers to give him the tape in exchange for his help. Nick gives in. He tells her he knows where Emmett was headed. They go to a shop where a yak informs them that Emmett left in a white limousine. He gives them the license plate number, which Judy uses to track the vehicle's location. They find the limo and begin inspecting it. The back seat is covered in claw marks, and Emmett's wallet is still there. It's all very suspicious. Suddenly, a group of polar bears captures them and brings them to the mob boss, Mr. Big. Mr. Big is a tiny but powerful rodent. The moment he sees them, he knows their trouble and tells his goons to ice them. But right then, his daughter walks in and recognizes Judy. She's the tiny mouse Judy saved the day before. Grateful for what Judy did for his daughter, Mr. Big calls off the hit and decides to help them. Emmett, he explains, was his florist and almost like family. He had something urgent to discuss, so Mr. Big sent a limo to pick him up. But during the ride, Emmett went completely wild. He tore up the car, attacked the driver, and then vanished into the night. He doesn't know what happened to him, but he tells Judy, "We may have evolved, but deep down, we're still animals." He suggests they speak with Mr. Manchus, the limo driver who was transporting Emmett. Judy and Nick arrive at Mr. Manchus's home, and he confirms what Mr. Big told them. Out of nowhere, Emmett began walking on all fours, turned savage, and attacked him. The only thing Emmett kept shouting was something about night howlers. He repeated it over and over. The night howlers, the night howlers. Suddenly, Mr. Manchus begins to lose control. He turns savage and lunges at them. Judy and Nick run for their lives. Manchus is about to grab Nick when Judy intervenes and saves him. He's stunned. She saved his life. They manage to capture Manchus. Judy calls Chief Bogo to report what they've discovered and to show him the creature that has reverted to a primal state. Bogo is skeptical. Animals haven't behaved that way in centuries. They're civilized now. However, to prove it to him, Judy tries to show Manchus to Bogo. But when they arrive at the place where he had been detained, they discover that Manchus is gone. He's escaped. Bogo is furious and reminds Judy that since she failed, she now has to resign. She can't believe it. Nick jumps in and reminds Bogo that they still have 10 hours left to solve the case, and that's exactly what they're going to do. They walk out before Bogo can argue. Judy thanks Nick, and he offers her a piece of advice. Never let them see they got to you. Judy is surprised. She thought Nick didn't care what anyone thought of him, but now she sees she was wrong. Nick shares his most vulnerable memory. When he was 8, he dreamed of joining the Junior Ranger Scouts. His mom saved up to buy him a brand new uniform because he was determined to be part of the group, even if he was the only predator and the only fox. Little Nick showed up at the first meeting full of hope. In front of the other kids, all prey animals, he began reciting the Scouts' pledge. "I promise to be brave, loyal, helpful, and trustworthy." But the others didn't trust him. He was a fox, and according to them, a fox could never be loyal or trustworthy. They pinned him down and muzzled him against his will, saying they'd never be stupid enough to trust a fox. Nick ran out crying. That day, he tells Judy, "I learned 2 things. 1, never let them see they got to you. And 2, if the world sees a fox as sly and dishonest, what's the point of trying to be anything else?" If Nick ended up being a hustler who fits perfectly into the stereotype of the sly fox, it's because he gave up on a world that never gave him a real chance. That role was assigned to him. It was too hard to be anything else, so he just gave in. And this happens in real life too. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The expectations others have of us shape our behavior, and over time become part of our identity. For example, if a child is constantly told they're bad at math, they may develop anxiety around the subject and end up performing poorly, thus confirming the original negative expectation. In the same way, when a member of a marginalized group is denied opportunities to prove their true abilities, they're more likely to end up accepting the limited roles society assigns them, and that, in turn, perpetuates the stereotypes. Eventually, the people who impose those stereotypes see them proven right, but the behavior they're seeing is not proof of truth. It's the result of the very bias they helped create. Nick gets an idea. Check the security footage to see what happened to Mr. Manchus. They ask Assistant Mayor Bellwether for access to the city's cameras. Together, they watch the footage and see that a group of wolves captured Manchus and took him to a strange building. Suddenly, Judy connects the dots. Emmett kept mentioning night howlers. He must have been talking about those wolves. That building must be where Emmett, Manchus, and the rest of the missing predators are being held. They sneak into the building and find a series of cages holding all the missing predators. Every one of them is acting completely savage. They've lost all trace of civility and behave like wild animals. They hear someone coming. It's Mayor Lionheart and a scientist. The mayor demands answers. Why is it only predators who are turning savage? The scientist says it may be time to consider a biological component. Maybe something in predator DNA is triggering this behavior. Lionheart refuses to accept this. He's a predator, a lion. He can't tell the public that being a predator might make you dangerous. That would only cause panic and discrimination. He'd be criminalizing an entire group of citizens based on genetics, even though many predators lead honorable, law-abiding lives. But Judy has recorded the entire conversation. She sends the footage to Chief Bogo. Within minutes, Mayor Lionheart is arrested for illegally detaining the predators without notifying the police. The mayor insists he was only trying to protect the public. They still don't know why this is happening, and exposing it too soon might cause even more damage, but Judy doesn't listen. She's convinced she's doing the right thing. The next day, Judy is set to lead a press conference. As it begins, she turns to Nick and tells him how helpful he's been. She says it would be amazing if he joined the police force and hands him an application form. Nick is deeply moved. Judy believes in him. Finally, someone sees him as someone honorable, not just a con artist. Judy steps up to the podium and shares what she's discovered. The press asks, why is it only predators who are turning savage? She doesn't have all the facts, but she answers, we don't know yet, but it may be biological, something in their DNA. It seems like the predators are reverting to their primitive, savage instincts. The room goes silent. Reporters, and especially the predators, begin to worry. They're being criminalized for their biology, and this is extremely dangerous. Making generalizations about an entire group based on supposed biological traits only legitimizes and justifies discrimination. Worse yet, most of these assumptions have no scientific basis. They're unfounded pseudoscientific arguments meant to give a false sense of credibility to prejudice, presenting it as natural or inevitable when it's not. Nick can't believe what Judy just said. He's hurt and angry. Judy tries to explain that she was just stating the data without realizing the gravity of her words. She insists that prey can't go savage like predators. But Nick, you're not like them, she says. Nick freezes. So now there's a them? Judy tries to justify herself, but Nick won't forgive her. He also points out that he saw the fox repellent she's been carrying since the day they met. Feeling betrayed, Nick hands back the police academy application, already filled out, and walks away. The entire city begins to unravel. More and more predators are turning savage. Discrimination intensifies drastically. Predators are denied access to certain places. They suffer derogatory comments, face microaggressions, and are subjected to acts of violence on the streets. Prey animals are terrified, and because of that fear, they begin to discriminate against all predators, regardless of the fact that the vast majority of them are honorable and well-behaved, and there's nothing predators can do to change their minds. They simply endure the mistreatment, not wanting to cause more problems. Judy watches the chaos unfold, all of it set in motion by her own actions. She blames herself and decides to resign. All she ever wanted was to make the world a better place, but all she did was make things worse. So she gives up her dream of being a police officer and returns home to work on her parents' carrot farm. There, she runs into Gideon, who apologizes for bullying her when they were kids. Judy realizes that he's become a genuinely admirable person. He has his own business and is incredibly well-mannered. He managed to become much more than what her parents, or even she, ever thought he could. While her younger siblings play, her father warns them not to step on the night howlers. Judy asks what he means, and he explains that night howlers are dangerous plants that cause animals to go crazy instantly. Suddenly, it clicks. Those are the night howlers Emmett was talking about. That's what's been making the predators go savage. Judy rushes back to Zootopia and finds Nick. She offers him a heartfelt apology, and Nick accepts it. She tells him everything she's discovered. They follow the clues and end up at a hidden lab where they find a sheep manufacturing dart-like projectiles made from night howlers. Someone has been using them to infect predators and make them go savage. But then the key question arises, who could be behind this entire plan? They managed to steal some of the darts to bring them in as evidence, but on their way to the station, they run into the now Mayor Bellwether. She congratulates them on their great work and suggests they hand the evidence over to her, saying she'll take care of everything. And that's when Judy realizes Bellwether is the mastermind behind all the attacks. Bellwether smiles cynically and tells Judy that they're on the same team. Prey animals have always been underestimated, undervalued. She's tired of being seen as inferior to predators, especially when they only make up 10% of the population. Her whole plan has had one purpose: to inspire hatred through fear. If the prey unite, they could run Zootopia. They'd be unstoppable. Bellwether is a clear example of a certain archetype, someone from an oppressed group who simply wants to become the oppressor. Unfortunately, many believe this is the path to liberation, but in truth, it's not empowering because it keeps the same dynamics and structures in place. The only difference is who's on top. But the game remains the same. Brazilian thinker Paulo Freire suggests that the duty of the oppressed is to free themselves, and in doing so, also free the oppressor. And that requires two things: personal transformation and a transformation of the conditions in which one lives. It's not about switching roles, it's about changing the game entirely. Judy tells Bellwether her plan will never work, but Bellwether replies, "Fear always works." Just then, the police arrive. Bellwether tries to lie, but Judy has recorded her entire confession. She's clearly guilty. Judy did it. Peace returns to Zootopia, and an antidote is developed to counteract the effects of the night howlers. Nick enrolls in the academy and becomes the first Fox police officer. He and Judy are now partners, and now we can tie everything together. Zootopia is a representation of how, even in the most diverse and inclusive places, prejudice continues to exist, fueling division, tension, and fear among different groups. I believe the first step toward truly overcoming these biases isn't pretending we don't have them. It's recognizing and confronting our own. That begins, in part, when we come into contact with people who are different from us. When we get close to those we might otherwise feel aversion or distrust toward. So, I invite you to try. Dare to recognize your own unconscious biases, and even in small ways, try to break through the prejudices that separate you from others. Approach someone who's different from you and take the time to get to know them from scratch, as a unique individual, free of any assumptions about the group they belong to.